One of the most important parts of a dynasty league is the rookie draft. Okay. Now, you're hearing a lot of speculation about this class. This grouping position isn't good. This one's not good. Stay away from this, whatever. So you're going to be getting offers in your inbox for draft picks. But I think it's very important to know what to sell those draft picks for. Right, Zach?
Oh yeah, 100%. This is definitely something that we should be talking about now. I don't necessarily think you should be making these trades this week. We haven't
Right.
had the combine yet, but once you get names attached to draft picks and slots, these draft picks will be worth a lot more. So it's good to be prepared and know what you want to ask for from your league mates for your draft picks.
And just a reminder that there's no time a draft pick is more valuable than when you're on the clock. But still, if you wanted to make some moves now, we can't blame you. Trading is exciting. So we're going to be going through picks 101 through 105 to talk about what we would give up or what our logic would be behind moving those draft picks. Okay. So I will be assigning a player to that draft pick, and that is courtesy of a rookie mock draft that Hoff and I just did. So the name is just an example. Obviously, your league could be very different. Other draft picks are very different. For example, Zach, I saw a mock draft the other day. Tet McMillan was the 101 over Ashton Genty.
Listen, there's different kinds of leagues with different kinds of scorings. We can't assume, all these landing spots and where a player's going to fall, but we have a general idea, and that's just what you're trying to do with attaching a name to a draft pick here.
Right, exactly. So let's kick it off. Let's start with the 101. And in this example, the 101 was Ashton Genty, which I feel like he will be in most formats regardless. The 101, just because this quarterback class is not the strongest. Stay tuned to the channel for that. We're going to be talking to that. The only thing I will say about the quarterback class right now is I've told people before, the NFL tells you how to run your dynasty team. You don't tell the NFL how to run its team. Free agency this year for quarterbacks will tell you exactly what the NFL thinks about this rookie draft class. Something to just keep in mind. Free agency just around the corner. Zach, the 101, Ashton Genty. What are you doing here? If you're missing out on Ashton Genty, what do you have to get for that pick?
I don't want to break this down too much to, like, if you're a contender, if you're a rebuilder, it's the 101, right? So if it's the 101, I'm not doing a 1-for-1 deal. I am doing something where I'm acquiring volume either in draft picks or in players or in the combination of the two. If I am moving 101 again, it's for 2, 3, 4 players, and if it's 2, it better be 2 damn good players because Ashton Genty seems to be a very, very good running back, and once he gets first round draft capital, top 10, top 20, whatever it is, that's going to stick around for a while, as long as he produces at a relatively decent rate. Like, I think about running backs right now, like Bucky Irving, like Kyron Williams. Although they have top 5 production, they're day 3 running backs. They will never be valued at a top 5 running back position until they get a contract that dictates that. So Ashton Genty being a first-round pick is going to insulate his value for quite a long time. So a couple deals that I looked at here, we just talked about this, right? It's potentially not a good quarterback class. So just on paper right now, again, this is all in practice. We're just practicing here. We're talking about things that we can try to do. Can I get a quarterback in a deal for the 101? I don't know where you sourced your trades from. I always like to go to the trusty DLF. I don't want to keep referencing DLF, but I did plug these in the trades throughout this video to make sure that they make sense and they're just not far-fetched in my brain. But I did 101 for 105 in JJ McCarthy. Can I get a quarterback and a running back or wide receiver or tight end in what seems to be a weak quarterback class? I get the 2-for-1 there. I get the quarterback and I get another running back, wide receiver, or tight end. 105 to 106 to me, and again, this is so early, it just feels like where there's a tier break, right? To a more insulated draft pick in terms of the value you're going to get back. So that's why I wanted to go from 101 to 105. 101 to 110 really changes the value on here, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay in the top 5 or top 6, and I'm sure that's what you wanted to do with why we're only doing up to 105 in this video. Like I said, I'm not really going from 101 to 108, 109, 110, maybe 106 or 107, depending on what players get landing spots. I can't tell you that right now for certain. I might try, Mike, depending on the tight end premium of a league. For me, 0.5 doesn't do this. I need 0.75 or a full point tight end premium. I might try to go get Brock Bowers with the 101. I don't think you can do it straight up. I might have to add a plus. But what we saw last year out of Brock Bowers in a bad team with bad quarterback play, I'm not necessarily saying it can get better, but it can be 80 to 90% of that or better with a better team, a better quarterback, a better system around him. So can I get top 3 tight end for the rest of, for the next 10 years? But again, I want that extreme tight end premium to do this deal. Otherwise, I'll just take Ashton Genty if it's only a 0.5 premium. So I'm either trying to get a quarterback here, Mike, plus, or if I can do some kind of deal, I don't think you can do straight up Ashton Genty for or the 101 for Brock Bowers. But that's kind of where my headspace is at with the 101.
I do agree. Didn't really care for the 101 for the 105 and JJ McCarthy trade. I understand your logic behind it, but just because JJ McCarthy hasn't played yet is the only question. If I'm moving on from what could be a generational player, I want some more reassurance coming back to me. But I do completely understand where you're coming from. So my trades. I tried to just combine trades and sourced for you. My trades were sourced from Dynasty Daddy because you could put the individual draft pick in and search for who was traded for that, which I thought was cool. But for me, look, if I'm one of those guys like, dude, I'm loaded at running back. If I don't get a good deal for this pick, I'm drafting Ashton Genty. The likelihood is Ashton Genty means more to you when he's on an NFL team than if he's just the proverbial 101. He's got a landing spot and he has a clear path. It's just better to move him, but that's not the exercise that we're doing right now. Now, there is a circumstance where if a team's really bad, it might make more sense to move on from this pick and try to reload with some still younger but proven talent. So, I'm also always down for a trade back and a plus asset like you were hammering on before. And I think it's a great point to make. Don't trade yourself out of the first round with this 101. Do not do that. There's a lot of talent here. Let's look at some trades that I sourced so you can see what's going on here. How's that sound, Zach? All right. The 101 and a 26th third for T. Higgins, the 106 and 206.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I really like that because T. Higgins is I thought that T. Higgins really proved himself. I was very on the fence about T. Higgins. Oh, he's just the 1B in an offense, but there were certain games where he was and because that offense had to score 40 points a game to win.
I know, how about it?
Yeah, that he really showed up. And I'm back in on the T. Higgins train. I've been out for quite a while, but I think I'm back in. So I like that trade.
Yeah. How about this one? This is 4 for the old 4 for 1, Nate's favorite. 101 for Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts, the 5'10, and a 2027 second round pick. So the 101 for some question marks. We know that Trevor Lawrence has talent. We know Kyle Pitts has talent. I don't think we've seen from them as dynasty players what we've wanted to necessarily.
Right.
So, but it's definitely an interesting trade to look at for sure.
I want one asset a little bit more solidified in their value. I'm still a T-Law believer, but we can't sit here and say like, hey, he's definitely safe for the next 3 years. I do believe that he is, given a new coaching staff. I think he's just started the contract extension that he got a couple of years ago or 16 months ago, whatever, or 10 months ago, whatever it was. But, last year there was a lot to not like about T-Law, and those things have been showing themselves for quite a while. So I think I'd like to get at least one asset in that trade that's a little bit more safe. But I love getting a 3 or a 4 for 1. I just wish there was one piece in that trade that was a little bit more a safer value, so to say.
I do agree with that. But then at the same point in time, this is also a trade that you look back on it and you can be like, well, that one really worked out good for me. Because these guys could still go off. Last one I have for you here, the 101 and the 201 for Brian Thomas Jr. and the 203. So you're only moving back 2 picks in the second round. You still have a high second round pick, but you're also getting Brian Thomas, who had a fantastic rookie season.
Can we talk for a second about Brian Thomas?
Of course.
Come closer to the mic. Brian Thomas, I did some research on this, and I did this research before this video because I'm like, it didn't seem like he had an amazing season, right? And I looked it up. With Trevor Lawrence, With Trevor Lawrence, he was wide receiver 21. With Mac Jones, he was wide receiver 7.
Let's not forget, though, I believe a lot of the time Trevor Lawrence was playing, Christian Kirk was still on the field early in the season.
Gabe Davis and Gabe Davis.
Right.
And I don't think whether or not those two guys are not there, somebody else will be. So I gotta believe more so, and maybe he can be better than wide receiver 21. Maybe he can be wide receiver 15. I don't know. I have Brian Thomas in this video later at a later pick, 104, 105, because that's where he starts to enter the conversation for me. I get it. I get that he was phenomenal. He had a great rookie season. He was great for, especially where you drafted him at, right? He was a late first round pick last year. For the most part, like 109 through 112 was where Brian Thomas went. I think that if you dig a little bit more into the stats, a lot of that was with Mac Jones, without Gabe Davis, without Evan Ingram, without Christian Kirk. You know, you're talking about Parker Washington being the second target in that passing game. So,
hell yeah,
I think that I love Parker Washington. Okay, yeah. So I think that there's just I don't know. Brian Thomas is not the guy for me. I'd want with the 101.
Okay. It's just an interesting thought there. So I don't think the trade is awful, but I do understand where you're coming from. Zach, let's move to the 102.
So for the 102, Mike, obviously the name you associated with this pick, Teteroa McMillan, could be Aston Genty, but for the sake of this pick, we'll go with Tet McMillan. I like to call him T-Mac. I haven't heard a lot of people saying T-Mac. I'm going to go with T-Mac, all right?
You heard it here second, everybody.
There you go. And I wrote this in the show sheet. I was hoping maybe you looked at this and said, what the hell is he saying? If I'm going to move off the studliest wide receiver, yes, as in Studley, I want a receiver plus back in the situation. The first name that I thought of just off the top of my head was Rashee Rice plus. We'll talk about the plus in just a second. I know that you're going, oh, your stud wide receiver you're getting back is Rashee Rice. Well, yeah, like, I get that there's a value dip because of the injury, but when he was on the field, even at the beginning of the season, the Chiefs were a different offense. Patrick Mahomes was a different quarterback, and he was a great wide receiver. And I was the anti-Rashee Rice guy for 2+ years. When he came out the draft after the first season, I'm like, I just don't believe in this. And I can no longer deny what I was witnessing with my own eyes, even to start the season. He was really good, and that Chiefs offense was really good when it went through Rashee Rice. So, yeah, I think Rashee Rice, as long as he's healthy, he's still a stud wide receiver, and I think I can get Rashee Rice plus a mid to late 25 second round pick for Teteroa McMillan. So, it's really it's your flavor of the week. Do you prefer T-Mac? And I get it, but listen, sometimes these rookie wide receivers, they don't work out. A couple years ago, Treylon Burks was the 103. These things happen. And I'm not saying that T-Mac is Treylon Burks, but it happens. And they don't work out to what we perceive or what we want them to be. I mean, Rome Odunze was a top 5 pick last year. And while I still believe in him, and I'm actually going to talk about him in just a second, you didn't get what you wanted out of him, right? Can I get Rome Odunze and an early second for Teteroa McMillan? Can I get Brandon Ayuk and a 25 second and a 26 second, because he did not look good last year to start the season. So I'm trying to get a wide receiver here that I might be buying at a little bit of a value dip. And I'm trying to get some additional draft capital here, Mike.
Yeah, I like that. It's, there's a slight value gap here. I think you could still get a stud running back. Like if the draft went Ashton Genty and then Omarion Hampton, who I'm a huge fan of, or your wide receiver 1, Tet McMillan or Luther Burden, whoever that may be for you. Or if you want to, if nobody wants to make a move and you want to take your quarterback 1 of the class, be it Cam Ward, who's my quarterback 1, or Shedeur Sanders, you can get those guys. But you could also, for this pick, get some proven talent, in my opinion. Still a high pick. I still want a good return. I got my trades here from Dynasty Daddy. Zach, let's talk about them. The 102 and the 202, I don't know how I feel about this trade for Travis Kelce and Brock Purdy.
I like the Brock Purdy part of it. I just don't like the Travis Kelce part of it.
I guess we don't really know what he's going to do. He had mentioned a few times about possibly retiring. Mm-hmm. I don't think he wants to retire on that Super Bowl loss personally. That doesn't seem like him. He's a pretty competitive guy.
I mean,
So
in general here, Mike, I just don't want a 1 year or 2 year asset. I'm giving up two pieces that are, this is two top 14 picks. These are hopefully pieces that are contributing to my roster, at least for the next 5 years. I would want that in return. I think Brock Purdy is a great piece. I love Brock Purdy. I'm a big Brock Purdy fan. Whether it's this offseason or next offseason, he's going to get a very, very nice contract extension that's going to bolster his value. It will be
yes.
harder to get Brock Purdy when he gets a $45 to $50 million contract, which trust me, he will. But I want something else other than Travis Kelce. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Like if I'm going tight end,
What if it's Sam Laporta?
let me get Tucker Kraft. I think that's a little bit more realistic. I think it's a little bit more realistic. He was a top 10 tight end last year in that broken offense, and no Christian Watson next year. I think that Tucker Kraft is going to be a little bit better next year. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you get Sam Laporta out of that. I'm not too sure.
Okay. All right. How about this one? The 102 and a 26th third for Brees Hall.
I'll take Brees Hall here, Mike. I know it's the 102, and when it comes time to put this pick in your rookie draft, it's fun, it's sexy. Brees Hall is a known commodity. I don't care how bad that offense is going to be. He's probably going to be a top 10 running back next year at worst. And then moving forward, who knows what the situation will be. But Brees Hall is a stud running back. So if I can get that for the 102, I'll do that every day.
I'm fine with that as well. And you're moving on from a 26th third, not the end of the world to move on from that to get a stud running back. One more. I did this for you because you're a Dolphins fan. The 102 for Devon Achane and the 304.
I hate this. No.
I did this just for you, Zack.
I don't understand. Like you guys just don't watch the Miami Dolphins, right? You just look at the box score, right?
I do not watch the Miami Dolphins because they do not put their games on unless they play the Jets.
Well, and thank God for that because they're absolutely terrible. It's a terrible run franchise. Yeah. Mike, I haven't seen a playoff win since I was like 13 years old, and I didn't even see it because it was blacked out. So, and I'm 38. So.
They blacked out a playoff game?
Yeah, it was 2001. That's how long ago it was. Yeah. Nonetheless, I'm not a Devon Achane fan. I don't think the Dolphins' offense is best when it revolves around him. I don't understand what Mike McDaniel was doing last year, trying to make the offense revolve around him. The Dolphins just released Raheem Mostert. I think maybe that means more Jalen Wright. I think they draft another running back. They need a thumper, maybe a Damian Martinez, somebody like that.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think he serves a role there. I don't think he's the Damian Martinez that we wanted maybe a year or two ago, that everyone thought he was going to be, but he could be like the short yardage goal line back the Dolphins don't have. I'm just not a Devon Achane fan. And I don't think this offense is best when it revolves itself around him. And that's what they did last year, and it didn't work. And it was terrible. I don't understand what Mike McDaniel was doing. And so, I mean, if you can get the 102 for Devon Achane, go do it. Do it. Because I think if Mike McDaniel is a smart man, which I don't know yet, like I had believed in him, now I'm not sure. He will not revolve the Miami Dolphins offense around Devon Achane. That's a bad plan. I don't know who you revolve it around, but things seem to work when you did it around Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they didn't work when you tried to run the ball a whole bunch with. By the way, it worked when you ran with Raheem Mostert, but it didn't really work when you tried it with Devon Achane.
All right, Zach, let's move on to the 103. What do you got?
So the 103, you have here Omari and Hampton, which I know you're a huge fan because you drafted him in the first round of our C2C draft last year. I was like, what is this man smoking? Woo!
It's going to turn out to be a good pick, isn't it?
Yeah, I got Luther Burden. So.
Still a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, my first comment on our show sheet is a response to a trade that you brought up. Mm-hmm. Somebody traded 103 for Joe Burrow.
You wouldn't do that?
I would do that in a heartbeat, but
that's what I'm saying.
That's not happening in 98% of leagues.
Yeah, why can't I talk? Like Zach said, the 103 for Joe Burrow. If somebody offers me Joe Burrow for 103, I'm smashing accept so fast. It's not even funny. Yes, of course, I would gladly take Joe Burrow for the 103, especially in a bad quarterback class.
Are you sure that wasn't a one quarterback league?
No, I verified. I actually refreshed the page to make sure that it was a super flex league, and yes, it was.
Okay, all right. That was my first comment on the show sheet. It was in response to you. I do think that if I'm in need of a quarterback, that this may be too high for Cam Ward. Although I'm a big Cam Ward fan as it stands right now. Even if he goes to Tennessee, I'm a Cam Ward fan. But can I get maybe a second tier quarterback here? This is also where I want to start trading the pick plus to get a better return. So 103 and a mid-second for Caleb Williams or CJ Stroud. I'm still a Caleb Williams fan. I don't know how you couldn't be now, even more so with Ben Johnson there. Can I trade 103 for any mid-second for Drake London? Drake London was really good last year, and if you analyze him even more with Michael Penix, he was really, really good. You saw Drake London's workload increase and Darnell Mooney's workload decrease when Michael Penix came in. And then if I did a quarterback, I did a wide receiver. If I wanted to go the running back route, 103 for Saquon Barkley. I know that seems a little crazy just based off the season that he just had. But if you look at where he's going in startup drafts, it's right around where the 103 is. I actually did a startup draft the other day. It was a $10 league, and they're drafting kickers as rookies, and 103 and Saquon Barkley were right next to each other. So you might have to give a little bit more plus here, and obviously you're looking at a competitive window if you're buying Saquon Barkley. But man, the season that he had last year, you can attest to this. It was phenomenal. It won people leagues. When I buy a player like that, I did buy a couple of Christian McCaffrey shares last year. I'm not expecting the production that they put up that previous season. I'm hoping for 80 to 90% of that just to manage my expectations. Obviously, you were very disappointed with Christian McCaffrey, but can you get 80 to 90% of Saquon Barkley's season last year? I think so, if he's fully healthy.
Got some trades for you for the 103. You want to hear them?
Yeah, let's hit it.
And I did make a note on here. I feel like this is where you might start to see some quarterbacks go in certain leagues. Again, my quarterback one is Cam Ward as of right now. I do think he has a superior arm to Shedeur Sanders as far as strength. Accuracy, Shedeur Sanders is very accurate. When I was doing the preliminary scouting on Travis Hunter, who apparently is going to the combine as a defensive back, I think his yardage could have been better if Shedeur Sanders would have let the ball go a little bit earlier. Just let your fast guy go run under it and get it. He's going to do it. He's good enough. But here's some trades. The 103 and the 110 for Saquon Barkley and the 212.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'm really trying to dissect that one.
You did mention that you might have to give a little bit more to get Saquon Barkley, so you're giving that little bit more, which would be the 110. You're also getting the 212 back.
I think that's a little bit too much of a plus. I think the 110 is still. I know a lot of people are poo-pooing this draft class, Mike, but I think when we start to get landing spots, we start to get names. You just did a video on the tight ends. I think there's a couple of really good tight ends in this draft. Maybe the 110 is where the second or third tight end comes off the board. And I don't know. It's too early, but I still think the 110 is a good pick. I think I'm giving up a little bit too much plus there for Saquon Barkley. I like the thought process, but I would hesitate at giving 2 first-round picks for Saquon Barkley.
Understood. The 103 and the 109 for Brian Thomas. I know you're not doing that. Not by any means. We talked about the Joe Burrow trade. I did see this one come through. They must have liked what they saw in the Super Bowl. 103 for Xavier Worthy.
I will say that we definitely saw an uptick in Xavier Worthy after the bye, right? But also no Rashee Rice, right? No Isaiah Pacheco when that was happening as well. I know Isaiah Pacheco came back at the end of the season, dude, coming back from a broken femur, came back way too early.
Hopkins is older now.
Yeah, Kelsey's older. That's way too high for Xavier Worthy's value. I think startup wise, he's going in the 7th, 8th round. Your 103 is probably coming off the board in the late 3rd, early 4th to startup. So I think you're losing a lot of value in Xavier Worthy, or you're hoping you don't do that here, right? If you're trading the 103 for Xavier Worthy, hoping that he boosts his value to that, you don't do that. You pay an appropriate price for Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy is not, give me a top tier Justin Jefferson. He's not that. You don't do that. You pay an appropriate price for an Xavier Worthy and hope that he increases his value after you buy him.
Yeah, I'm not making that move at all. So I'll keep the 103. Let's move on to the 104. And in the mock, we had Luther Bird in the 3rd here. But what are you looking at in the 104, Zach?
So I'm going to say this name, and I don't think it's going to be very popular. That's okay. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. This is one of my players that I'm really buying heavy this offseason, and I'll have that a better list once free agency comes around, but I'll just give you a couple of hints. Last year, my names were Jonnu Smith and Adam Thielen, and those guys helped you win a championship this year. So Chris Godwin is a name that I'm really liking the value that I'm seeing out there right now. Now, I'm not trading 104 for Chris Godwin, right? I'm getting a plus back in return. I got to, on the DLF site, I got to 104 for Chris Godwin and 109. I'm still getting a top 10 player. That's one. I think 109 is going to start to be like the Tyler Warren area, just because if he does land with the Colts, I don't think it's going to be a popular landing spot. That might push him down the board a little bit. Maybe that's a Shadur Sanders. Maybe that's a Caleb Johnson. Who's the wide receivers after Luther Burden that we're talking about here? Maybe that's Matthew Golden
Yeah, there's a big drop off after those two guys. There's some guys that I like Matthew Golden. I like Trey Harris a lot. I'm probably the highest on Trey Harris in the class, but they're not going in this range here.
But for me, this would really depend on the start size of my league. Do I need the 2-for-1 here? Can I get Chris Godwin, who I think I'm buying at a value? Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 1 when he went down with injury, and I don't even really care about his landing spot because I think he's going to be very smart with this process. I don't see him necessarily chasing the most money. I see him honestly going to one of two places, either back to Tampa or over to Jacksonville, where Liam Cohen is, who's the offensive coordinator that he just had a whole bunch of success with, and they have a huge need at wide receiver. So I'm really in on Chris Godwin right now. This might be the Chris Godwin season to buy before free agency. And I like the 104 for 109 and Godwin. At the end of the day, I'd rather have Luther Burden, but this is team dependent. Like if this is a start 11, I need 5 or 6 wide receivers. I probably have 3 starting wide receivers and 2 or 3 flex spots. I need to fill those up. Can I get a Chris Godwin and another wide receiver at 109? Same thing. Just take out Chris Godwin, add Jameson Williams if you want. Jameson Williams in the 110. I'm not opposed to moving back to the back of the first and picking up some value here. And then a couple other names. I don't think this is a sexy one as I think it is, but maybe Chuba Hubbard and a late first, or even Kenneth Walker. I think the community is way too low on Kenneth Walker. And look, he's pretty much guaranteed to miss 2 to 4 games every season, but they want to run the football there. He's the alpha running back. As much as I love Zach Charbonnet, when Kenneth Walker starts, he is a great fantasy running back. Can I pick up Kenneth Walker and a late first for the 104?
There's an article here I found, and it is courtesy of SportsIllustrated.com. Ever heard of it? This was one day ago. Buccaneers remain committed to re-signing Chris Godwin despite injury setbacks. So I do think that's actually the best case scenario for Chris Godwin. And look, he's been playing alongside Mike Evans his entire career, and he's been productive. So yeah, I do think that's the best for him as well. I got some trades here for the 104 if you'd like to hear them, Zach.
Yeah, let's go. Hit me with them.
Of course you would. Nico Collins in the 101 for Brian Thomas in the 104. It's the Brian Thomas episode.
I'll be talking about Brian Thomas soon. I think I'd rather have the Nico Collins side on this.
Yeah, I think I would too. I mean, Nico Collins and the 101. Why wouldn't I want that?
So hang on. This deal here, they are saying that Brian Thomas is worth more than Nico Collins? Because it's Nico in 101 and Brian Thomas in 104. You're saying that Brian Thomas Jr. bridges the gap to Nico Collins?
That's what I'm taking from this trade, Zach.
No,
and
I want Nico Collins.
Now, I think there were some people disappointed with Nico Collins' season last year, but I believe he missed some time with injury. Nico Collins is a stud, dude. I'll take Nico in the 101, by all means.
So, Mike, for everyone worrying about C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, don't. That offensive line was doo-doo.
Yeah,
like bad.
I think their line's going to get better. CJ Stroud's going to continue to develop. His wide receivers are going to get healthier. Hopefully they get some production out of Dalton Schultz. They have a strong running game now with Joe Mixon there. I'd like to see them get a better backup in there than Dameon Pierce. I still think they're the best team in the AFC South. Let's chill out. The Texans are going to be just fine. I can't believe we're saying that because they were so bad for so long. Here's another one. DK Metcalf and Chase Brown for the 104 and Kendre Miller.
Oh, I don't know if I like any of these.
I'll take the DK Metcalf and Chase Brown side. Chase Brown was like running back 10 on the season. Do I think he's going to do that again? No, but DK Metcalf is a very good wide receiver. He's startable every week, as is Chase Brown, to be honest with you. So give me those two productive guys.
I'd like DK Metcalf more if he's not in Seattle.
I feel like he could be a Seahawk for life guy.
I don't think so. They signed him to a shorter contract when they could have extended him to bigger money. I think 2 years ago they only signed him to a 3-year extension, and then they don't throw. They are one of the lowest percentage throwing teams in the NFL, and they want to run even more. They just came out and said it the other day that they want to run the ball more. DK Metcalf is a name that in a couple of weeks we could see moved. There are teams that need wide receivers out there. I think the Patriots are a team that is aggressively trying to get a wide receiver. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's like if DK Metcalf is on the Patriots with Drake May, I like him a lot more than in this situation where he's on the Seattle Seahawks with a emerging JSN and they want to run the ball.
I think they want to run the ball more because Geno Smith is their quarterback personally. I got another one here, although Geno Smith did have a pretty decent season. The 104 for Michael Pittman and Chase Brown.
Whew. If this was
another interesting one,
maybe last year, even though 104 was like Malik Neighbors, maybe I do that. But from what I saw, look, Anthony Richardson is there.
Yeah, that's why I'll take the 104 here. I'll just take
Right.
Luther Burden. The passing volume in Indianapolis isn't good. I don't think. I mean, we've seen some progression from Anthony Richardson, but we've also seen a lot of injuries from Anthony Richardson. And like they always say, the best ability is the ability to score fantasy points. You can't do that if you're hurt. The best ability is availability. I finished it off for everybody there. So interesting one. Let's go to the 105, who in our mock was my quarterback one, Cam Ward. Zack, is Cam Ward your quarterback one?
Yeah, Cam Ward's my quarterback one, Mike. I'm a big fan.
Bring it in right there. We're doing it. Wrong way.
There you go.
Okay,
that's what you get.
Go ahead.
That's what you get at the Dynasty Rewind.
Yes.
I've been with you guys for 2+ years. I've never done that before. That's hilarious.
And that'll be the last time.
No, that's going to be our new thing since we're going to be doing more videos together. I'm a big Cam Ward fan. I do like him. Obviously, I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. I got to see him probably a little bit more than most people did. We could talk about why later, but I do like Cam Ward. There are nice players who are still available in the draft, Mike. And if Cam Ward was here and I needed a quarterback, I'd be excited. I'd be happy about it, even if he landed on the Tennessee Titans, because I am a believer in Brian Callahan and his ability to run a functioning offense. But this is the part also, Mike, in your rookie drafts where you could miss. And that could be incredibly detrimental to your build wherever it is. So if I can turn 105 here into a proven asset with insulated value, I'd like to do that just because there is no guarantees once we get to the 105, 106 area. More so in this draft than maybe last year, but just in general, like this is where hit or misses start to happen. Ideally, I'd aim higher here, Mike, and add on top if necessary to get a guy like Nico Collins, who we just talked about. This is where I start to target a Brian Thomas Jr. I'm okay with targeting Brian Thomas Jr. with the 105. I'm not okay with doing that with my 102, 103. And I'd probably target Brian Thomas at a lower price than Nico Collins. And maybe even a couple of players, Garrett Wilson, JSN, T. Higgins to a lesser degree than Nico or Brian Thomas. Those are I didn't want to throw trades together here as opposed to throw you out some names, but I want to get more security if I'm trading this pick. I don't necessarily want to get a whole bunch of volume because this is where I could start to miss on some of my draft picks. So can I get a proven player that's probably worth more than the 105 and I'd have to give up a little bit extra? I'd be okay with that, Mike.
Yeah, I agree. I got some trades for you here, and these get pretty interesting at this point in the draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. for the 105 and 410. Oh, the cat bit me as I said that. That was great. Thank you, Gracie.
I take Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I think people are I think people are way overreacting to him even having a decent rookie season. He was still a wide receiver 3. I know it's not what anybody expected, but maybe you should have managed your expectations better. And that way you wouldn't be so disappointed. Thinking every rookie is going to come in and be God's gift to fantasy football, that's a you problem and not a me problem.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that's a very important thing for you to say. Yes, these guys are heralded as generational talents. They're still rookies. They're still adjusting. Oh, he played in the Big Ten or he played in the SEC. That's not the NFL. Not everybody comes in and dominates right away. Look, he still had 62 receptions for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's fantastic for a rookie. Brian Thomas Jr. did better. Malik Neighbors did better. Okay, great. Everybody learns differently.
They were also on worse teams.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there could be the argument made. You could make an argument where both those guys, their teams get better and their fantasy production gets worse. That's an argument you could absolutely make because typically you don't force feed like one player on your offense. I know that's what we want for fantasy football, but that's why Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are so good because they are still on good teams and they get force fed a lot of volume. That's typically not how the NFL likes to work it.
Here's another one for you. The 105 for Zay Flowers and Jahan Dotson.
You had to throw the Jahan Dotson in there. No, I
didn't throw it in there. The guy did that traded for him. So
I think I'd still prefer 105 here. I'm not the biggest, as you can hear the dog barking in the background. He's protecting me from all the cats outside, or maybe even Gracie. I'd prefer 105 here. I'm not the biggest Zay Flowers fan. If I was going to buy Zay Flowers, I'd have to go probably like the 108, 109 area.
Okay, fair enough. This one made no sense to me, but here we are. The 105 for the 104 and Tyler Algier.
Somebody has Bijan Robinson.
That's what I was thinking too. That's what I was thinking.
Tyler Algier is it's probably one of the best handcuffs outside of Zach Charbonnet to have, by the way.
You know what? I feel bad for Tyler Algier because his rookie year when he was the guy in Atlanta, he had a good season, but it was like basically think of it like the Eagles going from DeAndre Swift to Saquon Barkley. You can just tell when there's an upgrade there. And Bijan Robinson is an upgrade over Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier will be gone one day. It'll be the Bijan show. So, but this trade to me just kind of feels like a wash. If I could be honest.
Yeah, I'm not using the 105 to go get or whatever it is, and I'm not using the 104, the 105 to get Tyler Algier. That's ridiculous. I understand the logic probably, but I'm not using these assets to do it.
I'd rather just make a separate trade for Tyler Algier in some capacity. Because if I have the 104 and it could, the 105 here, just let me trade for Tyler Algier some other way. That's what I want to do. Yeah, last one, you're a Dolphins fan. This one's for you, Zach. The 105 for Tyreek Hill and the 206.
Not with the way Mike McDaniel used him last year. I wouldn't do that. Maybe later on in the season he gets traded. I don't know, but I have no faith in Mike McDaniel to use him the right way. And to me, that's where it gets scary with Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill is the problem. I think Mike McDaniel was the problem and not utilizing his offense more functionally last year. So no, I'm not doing this. It's not a Tyreek Hill thing. It's more of a Mike McDaniel thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill reveals preferred destination for 2025 season. Looks like his preferred destination is the Chargers.
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Be interesting.
That would make things interesting.
I would like that.
That would make this trade. I'd have to think about it a lot more than right now. But I've lost faith in Mike McDaniel. I don't know if you can tell with the Devon Achane rant, but I don't know. Last year was abysmal. And to just lose your quarterback and not be able to run an offense. It's like the Dolphins lost to Mason Rudolph and the Titans last year without Tua. Talking about like you can't be an offensive guru. And then you can't run any kind of an offense when you lose Tua.
I understand losing faith in your head coach. I once watched Chip Kelly coach a professional football team for 3 seasons. So I completely understand.
I mean, I could go through the list of my coaches. You ever had Cam Cameron?
Yeah, but we're at about 40 minutes right now. We don't have another 50 minutes to go through the BS you've seen down there in Miami. So, Zach, thank you for joining me today. This was a good exercise because we just want to show you that just really think about before you move these high draft picks here. Okay, so hit subscribe while you're here. Head on over to Spotify. Check out our podcast. That is our preferred platform. Our merch store link is below. And again, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Until next time, everybody. For Zach, I'm Mike. Thank you for watching.